So I've cleaned up the edges of this so that I can stick on a new flap on here. So I tried taking this off, but I couldn't. It seems to be like sealed around that pipe there. So even if I wanted to buy a replacement one of these, it might be quite tricky getting it to fit onto that again. So the first idea that I had was I would 3D print something out. So this was my first test. So it was going to be a round pin, and that pin was going to ride in that slot. So I'd put the flap through here like that, and this piece here would fit on top, and I'd be able to glue that in place, and that should allow the flap. But the pin didn't have a lot of clearance there, so it wasn't quite so free moving when that piece was on the back. So then I could have just put it in here like so, but it was still binding on this bit here. So I thought I'd made enough allowance for that bit, but obviously not. And I could have printed this out with a bit more clearance for there, but wasn't quite the greatest of designs. So I come up with a slightly redesigned one. So let's see how I made this vacuum flap. So one thing I like to do when I start my projects is to draw a sketch of what that plate's going to look like. You don't have to do this step, but often if you grab the dimensions of what the existing plate is, you can make sure you're not doing any mistakes, which saves you from having to print out things too many times. So it's just a little bit of setup initially. We extrude here, this base plate. Then next we do a loft so we can see the angled shape, and then extrude out this area here, then extrude out the middle section, and this round plate here was a little bit recessed, so we extrude that down. So that mimics what that current plate's like, and for good measure add in the holes that are used for attaching that to the wall. So next we're doing a sketch here that's going to fit in a little bit of wall in here. So if I just turn off this base plate, then we can see we're extruding down into that. So we can turn off some of these sketches. So then we see that's been extruded. And now we're extruding the part that's going to be on the outside. So now we're doing a sketch on the side here so that we can put a cutout here, and that's where the flap is going to attach to. Let's see that from the side. And it's going to rest inside here. So on the outside bit there'll be no visible bit, but you will see a place for where that tab's going to link into. So next I'm doing a sketch plane that's at an angle, because I want this to be such that when it's sitting up, so that when that plate's sitting up vertically like that, it's in there and outside here, and gravity will keep that flap closed so that animals can't crawl into that space. So let's turn off the wall shape there. So now all we got is just this sketch here has been extruded to create the flap, and so that it will spin a little bit easier, then we just chamfer that bit there, and that is one way to design a part just like this. So this time I've got a flap that is flat, so that's easier to print out, which is good. And this is the surround, so the surround's got a lip around there. So instead of just sitting on the inside of this rectangle here like that one, I've got it so this is going to go to a set depth. So that will be able to fit in there like that. So I'll be able to just stick that in. And for inserting the flap, what we do is we've got some grooves here, and this flap's actually going to ride on front of this area here. So it's just going to sit a little bit like that. So let's try that out and see. Those lugs might need to be a little bit wider, but we'll see. So I just put the flap through, get the nicest side, put the flap through into the grooves like that, and that should be able to flap freely. So let's just try that one out. Yeah, so that's good. So that's not going to slide into the slot behind here, because the edges of this are just enough. So it's got about what's that, 1mm either side or thereabouts, so that it doesn't fall into that flat. So let's see if we can try that out. Ooh, there we go. It'll probably just blow completely off when I turn it on. So I couldn't actually see that because the switch is on the inside. Let's see if I can jam something in it so it stays open so I can have a look. Okay, that seems to be working quite well. Okay, so let's just put a dab of sealer. So only a very small amount. Make sure that's sitting in right. Okay, and I'll keep that in place while that dries. Okay, cheerio.